Hello everybody, and welcome back to the fish room. This is Andrew Purkowski checking in again. Today's video is about my Xenotaenia resolanae. These fish are from the Rio Purificacion and are descended from fish that were originally collected by Dr. Robert Rush Miller back in 1976. I'll flash the entire collection info on the screen so everyone can see. This species, also known as the Leopard Splitfin, so a fairly fitting common name. I've seen other examples of this species with much more heavy spotting, but these are still pretty young. My group consists of 4 males and 2 females that I originally received from Pat Hartman back at the last Chicago Livebearer Society meeting in early December. At the time I noticed that the 2 females were pregnant, and they've since dropped fry. And we'll take a look at their tank in a little bit. But back to the Chicago Livebearer Society. One of the reasons for my recent hiatus is that I'm going to be giving the talk at the next meeting. It will be about goodeids. So if you are in the Chicagoland area on March 10th, more than welcome to stop by. And here is actually my title page from my presentation. The species was described by Clarence Lester Turner in 1946, and it was placed in the Xenotaenia tribe, which contains the whitey eye and the furcidans, in addition to the ground-dwelling goodeids, all the Alodontictes. This genus is monotypic, which means there's only one species in the genus, that being these resolanae. The etymology of the name, Xenotaenia, Xeno meaning strange, and taenia being band or ribbon, translates to strange ribbon, which is an obvious reference to the Trophotaenia most goodeids are born with. Although it's not, I'm not exactly sure if this species in particular has a strange Trophotaenia compared to all the others. This is a male right here. You can see the notch in his anal fin. It would be spectacular if I could get him in better focus, but I do the best I can. The specific epithet, resolanae, is a reference to the type location, the Rio Resolana. The species, it's endemic to Jalisco and Colima in western central Mexico. They are actually the westernmost population of the goodeid species, right near the Pacific, which is interesting. I like to think about where all the species are relative to each other. I think all that helps with a greater understanding of what they are. So in looking at them, you can see that the fish is generally like a kind of a greenish yellow, these are more yellow. The dorsal side is a little bit darker. And there's also quite a lot of spotting on that dorsal side, kind of clustered around the lateral line. This is a nice group shot of them. Love it. If you look at the males, the tips of the pelvic fins actually have a little bit of like a white or more vibrant yellow. There's one that just dove back in there. I think he was a more mature one. These guys are good at darting. Love it. The adults can get up to about 3 inches, but they'll begin breeding probably around like 1.5 inches, which is fairly typical for goodeids of this size. I think it's a real cool fish. My fry are being maintained in these storage containers. You can see. Just airstone, floating plants. My young are about 1.5 months and from 2 separate fry drops. Let's see if we can flush some of them out. There we go. See, we've got good numbers here. This makes me happy. With this species having a more carnivorous diet, I definitely feed these guys ground up shrimp pellets, bug bites, things of that nature, as opposed to the spirulina flake that I mentioned I feed to some of my more herbivorous species. But as you can see, as long as I'm able to keep goodeiid fry away from the parents, it's relatively easy to keep them going. And these guys are doing fantastic. Within the species itself, the Goodeid working group actually recognizes 2 different ESUs, one being a northern group and the other being a southern group, in 2 isolated river systems. These belong to the northern group. Their ESU would be XENRE2, which they do that based on the genus species. I'm not necessarily sure the rationale for the numbering, but oh well. As for this tank, this is actually a plant grow out tank. In here there's sort of an anonymous crypt, which I thought was a lutea at first, but it might be something else. Maybe some form of random Wenti. Can't really be sure. This little pot over here has a stem of Bacopa monieri. Then there's some Bacopa caroliniana, some Rotala indica, and Hygrophilus diformis, also known as water wisteria. This is a plant grow-out tank, but since I mentioned that the species doesn't seem to go after plants, I am getting a little bit of algae growth. As with many of the goodeids, this is a care species. They have it listed as vulnerable on their website for the priority list. Just threw some food in here. From what I've read, this subgroup actually from the Rio Purificacion is actually the group that is rarer out of the 2 SUs, having been more heavily impacted by a human presence in that area. This tank is very simple. Just an HOB, a bunch of plants, no heater. Just kept ambient to the room. This is, again, another species you don't see very often, but I highly recommend them if you have the chance to pick them up. If you guys like what I'm doing, hit like and subscribe, and I'll be sure to post more updates in the future. Thanks for watching.